لو كان سلعة تباع لبذلت فيه الأموال العظام أو صعد في السماء لسمت إليه نفوس الكرام.
Mumtaz, so what would you say are some things that separates kulliyat hadith from the other kulliyat? Like, what were some things that you really felt like, because you know in the universities here, all of the colleges, they generally study somewhat similar curriculum. However, there's kulliyat that make extra emphasis on that major in which they're studying in. So what would separate kulliyat hadith from the other ones, you would say?
We had a lot of focus on hadith and hadith related issues like Jarh wa-Ta'dil. We had mustalah al-hadith.
Now, was that every year? Like Jarh wa-Ta'dil and
Jarh wa-Ta'dil, it was basically for my second year all the way up. But you study different topics. So the first topic we studied within Jarh wa-Ta'dil was which books are relevant in this field. And then how do the scholars like grade a person within the isnad and stuff like that. And then how would you do it by yourself? And then the last one is the last 2 or 3 semesters is basically a topic called takhrij. So the idea is to put into use everything you've studied and try to grade a hadith by yourself. And of course you've got like teachers supervising and everything and just making sure you're on your way. But yeah, that was a good thing.
Yeah, Jermaine. Now there's a lot of people who have misconceptions around a topic like Jarh wa-Ta'dil.
Yeah.
To explain us for the viewers.
Well, Jarh wa-Ta'dil, it's like simplistically, like easily put, it's basically commenting on a person's reliability in transmitting hadith. So they do it by looking at 2 major factors: his memory and his what they call adala, his religion, like how religious he is and how like trustworthy he is. Exactly, his trustworthiness. So by commenting on both of those issues, they try to make a collected judgment on the person and then grading him into different categories. So you've got thiqa, you've got maqbool, you've got saduq, you've got da'if, you've got da'if jiddan, very weak, even if someone were to agree with him, it wouldn't help his case. And so on and so forth. So it's not that complicated, but there are a lot of steps. And it's not even the only thing that goes into verifying a hadith. So you've got even the chain of transmission. Is it complete? Is it cut off somewhere? What's the cut off? Do you have other hadith that say the same thing that's better, and like that they together could possibly become one hadith that's authentic?
Strengthening.
And so on. Strengthening.
Jermaine.
So I don't think it's complicated. It's just that people like to use it in a wrong way. I think that what makes it complicated. So
not in its proper bad.
They give the Jarh Ta'dil a bad rap in terms of the way they implement it amongst the people. So they'll take some of these principles completely out of context. And they'll just memorize the terminology and they will implement it wrongfully. And also another thing as well, this Jarh Ta'dil as related to ilm al-hadith, that's one thing. Now some scholars, they'll use the same terminology when it comes to clarifying the haqq and refuting people of falsehood. Some scholars, they call it jarh. Yes. But there are other scholars, and you'll find people that they'll send clips around. For example, they'll send a clip around from Sheikh Fawzan saying like, there's no Jarh wa-Ta'dil in this time. It's because some mashayikh, they don't use that terminology. For them, they call it ar-rad al-mukhalif. It's not that they are saying that, in this day and age, you can't warn against the people of innovation and you can't really praise people upon the sunnah. That's not what they mean. What they mean is, Jarh wa-Ta'dil, ilm al-hadith, it's got to do with ruwat al-hadith, like you've mentioned. And when it comes to warning against falsehood, they call that ar-rad al-mukhalif. And there are other scholars that use this same terminology for warning against people innovation. So I think that's where the confusion comes from. The mustalah, how it's used.
Yeah, it's very nice that you make that separation also, because they also come with different conditions, right? They have different conditions and different ways to apply them. For example, when you're doing Jarh wa-Ta'dil, for example, there are scenarios where you might narrate from someone who's has a mukhalafa in aqidah.
True.
أليس كذلك? Whereas a rad al-mukhalif, the whole point is because that person has a mukhalif in his aqidah. You want to refute that issue that he's having. There's separations and there's different things that differentiate the two. And I think Sheikh Fawzan, he's very
distinctive.
Like he's very smart in the way he applies things to. He knows who he's talking to. He knows that these are issues. He knows that people are mixing. So he's very particular. So when he says this, he's saying it to rear people away from using it in a certain way.
Yeah. But, no, that point that you made is really important. And I remember Sheikh Adam also talked about it once as well. Which is, you'll find people, true. Some people will be like, oh, yeah, what's wrong with you Salafis? You know, we can take from people innovation because the Salaf, they narrated from Fulan bin Fulan, who was a Mubtadi'. It's like we have to differentiate between riwayah and dirayah. They're two different things, right? You're not going to this Mubtadi' in order to take a chain of narration from him where he's narrating from the Prophet. When it comes to a person's trustworthiness, then the biggest jarh, as you know, is obviously kadhib, you know? And some scholars, they accepted the narration from Al-Bid'ah. But when you're going to sit with an innovator to seek knowledge, you're not seeking the riwayah, the narration, or the chain of narration. You're seeking dirayah. You're seeking his understanding of the hadith and his understanding of the Quran. So these two things can't be mixed up. Yani, don't take these qawa'id from Jarh Ta'dil and then try and, like you mentioned, implement it in a completely different bab, which has its own intricacies and different ahwal.
Do you think there's a reason why people get confused these two matters? I mean, you studied in Kulit Hadith. Did you see maybe some mixing between the two, or
the thing is, as the Sheikh said, some people use principles that are set in a specific science such as Jarh Ta'dil and just apply it on other babs. And the thing is, I understand the confusion because it's sometimes similar.
In the way that you
scenarios.
do it.
Yeah. So it's really easy to just copy paste. But all the time it won't work out.
Exactly.
Like, it won't work all the time. Like sometimes you need, like, no, this is.
You'll hit the mark sometimes, but sometimes it's completely off.
But I understand the confusion because they're really related to each other, because this one talks about bid'ah and refuting the mubtadi' and all of that, and this one talks about how do we interact with that person in the hadith field, which is really closely linked to seeking knowledge. So I understand the confusion, but sometimes that parallel doesn't work out.